Hello everybody, my name is Chris Brayford and this is the Farmer's Guardian podcast. A very warm welcome to all our listeners far and wide. This week's podcast is a very special insight into the value of auction marts. I was up in Scotland last week and I was doing a bit of recording live at Thainstone Specialist Auctions in Inverurie. On this episode you'll hear my interview with ANM Group Auctioneer Ellis Mutch, who's from Aberdeenshire, and the Institute of Auctioneers and Appraisers in Scotland's Executive Director, Neil Wilson. So I'd actually never been to an auction mart before, but I have to tell you it was an enthralling experience. Witnessing firsthand that unique relationship which exists between farmer and auctioneer was incredible. If you don't know about the Institute of Auctioneers and Appraisers in Scotland, it's a representative body for livestock markets, valuers and auctioneers across Scotland. It has such a valuable role, not only in promoting the livestock market system, but educating the next generation of auctioneers and bringing together the farming community. So please enjoy listening as Ellis and Neil discuss the challenges farmers face, as well as auctioneers, their passions to work in our fantastic industry, and the important role auction markets play in the agricultural community.
Neil Wilson, Executive Director at the Institute of Auctioneers and Appraisers in Scotland.
Ellis Mutch, Auctioneer representing ANM Group.
Could you give us a flavour of what the Institute of Auctioneers and Appraisers in Scotland is and who it represents?
Okay. So I'll do that from a management point of view. Ellis can then maybe give you a version from a member's point of view. So from my perspective, it is about representing auctioneers across the country. Now, our members are not, predominantly livestock auctioneers, but we do have some non-livestock auctioneer members as well. So what we're doing, we are representing the members in terms of stakeholder discussion with government, other stakeholders, promoting the industry, supporting our members, trying to help grow the industry, particularly in the face of current issues around about livestock numbers and things like that.
Yeah, so I have not long went through the qualification, 4 years, and now I'm a fellow member of the Institute of Auctioneers and Appraisers Scotland. So as a member and with the business I am, obviously being a member, the Institute supports us through guidance, we've seen things through like blue tongue, COVID. So the Institute is there to support the members and the markets through different policies and how sales can go forward. And yeah, for me personally, the Institute, as being a member, as Neil said, I've went through Harper Adams, which was, that was all funded through the Institute to get me through that course. And now I have the qualification to go out and do valuations of different aspects. So, I mean, the Institute it's credible to be a part of going forward in my future.
Could you tell us about the important role IAAS plays in the farming community?
There's one big thing in it for me. Look, I'm passionate about being part of the livestock industry in Scotland, and auctioneers are at the heart of those livestock farming communities. I keep saying our members like Ellis will speak to our members across the country must speak to thousands of livestock farmers every week. Time you add up all those members, there'll be very, very few organisations out there, if any, that are speaking to as many farmers on as regular a basis as our members are. So there's two things to that, isn't there? First of all, we get the temperature check quite quickly of what farmers are thinking and how they're feeling. But equally, we've got a big responsibility to them to make sure that we're informing them of, right, look, this is what the trade's doing, this is what the business is like, this is where the demand is, and then in difficult times that we've just had, Ellis and I both farm a bit as well, we've all had this horrible spring is actually then just been there and help and support, you know, those livestock farmers as well, because that's our customer base.
Yeah, another thing about the Institute is representing all markets in Scotland, and all these markets are essentially in competition with each other. You know, they are businesses in their own right who wish to be profitable and get turnover and livestock throughput at the highest level they can, but we're all looking for the same goal at the end of the day, and the Institute is overriding that, gathering data for us, as Neil said. But the trade through the auction market is as real a trade as you'll ever get, and that is where, you know, the auction system will always be fair and true. And you know, the auction system has been here for a long time, longer than the Institute.
Yeah,
the IAS has been here, and will be here for a long time. You know, that's where I believe the auction market is a place that needs to be supported, and all the businesses that are members have the support of the Institute, and we can drive forward, keeping the auction system, you know, at the forefront of the livestock industry.
It's interesting you say that, because I saw somebody on social media the other day, and I just can't remember who it was, but it's somebody had sold basically almost like their annual sale of cattle at the market. You know, big batch of cattle in, did a good sale, and somebody else had put this post on Twitter, and somebody else had commented saying, you know, the longer I'm in farming, the more I realise the service and the value that auction markets provide. And it wasn't just about the whole thing around about the sale bit. Mm-hmm. It was about the whole service element around about that, you know. And I think Alan Hutchin, when he spoke earlier, talked about standing in the rostrum and selling those animals through the ring is 20-25% of the job. There's this other massive thing that goes with it, which is that service to the customer, to the seller and to the buyer.
What's it like to be an auctioneer? I can imagine it brings its own excitement, and you can bring your own unique skills to the role too.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt there's an excitement to it. When you stand in the rostrum and begin to sell and get the trade going, try lift the trade, you know, there's a great buzz to it. And I'm self-employed, working for ANM, and so I sell in Shetland, so it's very seasonal. So there's periods where I won't be in the rostrum auctioning for a good while, so I'm looking forward to get back in the box, and it's always, I'm itching to get going, and it's a great buzz. There's the feeling, and there's a nervousness, because the stock that the farmers are putting to me to sell, this could be their yearly income for the year, and I want to do my best for them at that time, and that's what I'm hoping to do, give them the best trade possible. You know, we are working for the seller here. The buyers are important, but we're working for the seller to get the best trade possible for them. As I said, that could be their once a year income that they're looking, and they look to me. So there's pressure on, but overall there is an excitement and a buzz to standing up and selling that livestock or whatever it be.
And I think in the back office though, before you get to that point, a lot of the skill that Ellis and his colleagues across the industry have is knowing, is having that relationship with the seller, knowing what's going to be coming in and making sure that the relationship with the buyer means that you've got the people there who are going to be wanting to buy that particular level of stock. So it's all that wider network, knowing, right, who's my customer, what are they going to want, who's my seller, what are they going to bring, how are we going to marry this up, you know, to make sure that we're going to get the best trade for the seller, and that the buyer is going to have achieved their goals and got what they want for their business as well. Yeah,
I had my sale in April here in Shetland, and Shetland is remote to mainland Scotland. You know, I take the boat there, and it is an overnight boat to Shetland, and you can fly, but the flights can be quite unreliable. And morning of my sale, the flight from Aberdeen was still cancelled, so buyers no getting up to the sale, and they were heading to another market mainland Scotland who was having a sale that day. So that's out of my control. So I now have a job to go and phone buyers to see if I can move stock on that potentially would have been going elsewhere. But that's where you build relationships. A big part of the job as an auctioneer is relationships with the customers and relationships with the buyers. So I could phone up that morning, and a couple of weeks ago I phoned up 2 separate buyers in the morning. I said, look, X amount of cattle at the market. Be honest with you, flight's delayed from Aberdeen, genuine cattle, they'll thrive with you. What can I do? Yeah, got a couple orders, sale went well. And that's just building up a relationship with that buyer, knowing the stock they were looking for, and say, yeah, there'll be X amount of cattle of that spec here today. Could we do something for you? Yep, no bother. And then the next buyer, there's this for you, do a job, So relationships is a big part of the job. Yeah, we'll go on farm before the sale. Throughout the year, we'll go and visit farms and see the farmers, sit down at their kitchen table and often hear more about their lives than what's happening in the farm, the cattle side. And it is a great relationship that we have, and almost a trust and a respect. And you want to follow that through right to the sale point. And as Neil said, they the stock before it comes, so you can prepare. So that guy's got these Suffolk cross lambs coming through. I know somebody will have them. Right, I need to phone them up. Or a lot of planning going into the sales, but it comes with its reward once it's through. Yeah.
It's a well overused phrase, but trusted advisor, I think, is kind of fits really for auctioneers. I think especially now post-COVID, because there's probably less sales people on the road as well, going up farm redens and things. In a week a farmer might have seen, the auctioneer, the sales rep, the medicine rep, whatever. And maybe now it's now got to the point now where it might only be the auctioneer.
Yeah.
They might see like the feed sales rep maybe once every 2 months rather than once every 2 weeks, and just the way that business has changed. So
many farmers are lone workers essentially, and the only person they may see in the month or in the week is a sales rep or an auctioneer, and that's where although we're hoping to get stock from them, provide a service in such way, it's a friendly word, it's a friendly conversation that we have with them that can help that farmer day to day, week to week. And then also that farmer, being a lone worker, the market, the sale days are key to those farmers. I've got nobody here to speak to, or, the wife's away working and I'm working all day alone. I'm going to go to the mart today, see a few guys, am I the only one that's having calving problems? Am I the only one that's got this wet fields? And, and they can speak all together, and farmers can realise, God, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in the industry. And that's a huge part about the auctioneers going on farm, but the auction markets themselves as a gathering place for farmers to socialise,
I don't think we underestimate that community piece, Chris, frankly. I think when you speak to all the auctioneers, I would say, across the country, they'll always be nipping in to see somebody, even if it's just for 10 minutes. They might know this is not the time of year where they're going to sell anything or have anything to sell, but I'm passing the road, I've not been in for a couple of weeks, I'll maybe just nip in for a quick word. If they're about, fine, quick word in the yard and away. And it's just, again, it's that relationship building and trust piece that goes here. And, ultimately, as Ellis said there, there are some days where, that farmer will be selling the majority of their stock on one day. It's a big day for them. There's a big bit of pressure on the auctioneer to make sure that they get everything out of that. That's trust, isn't it? I'm going to trust you, that I'm going to bring the majority of my stock for you to sell on one day, and that might make or break my year.
Auction marts also play an important role for farmers as hubs in the community not only for social interaction, but also places where you can receive a health checkup. I know that you've done a lot of work with the RSABI at Thainstone. It could really be a game changer for farmers, couldn't it?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, especially like at times of year like this.
Yeah.
And if you look at the pressure that's on the health service and stuff like that already, you know, if we can help work with RSABI just to facilitate that, it's up to the farmer whether they want to go and speak. But I think, you know, some of the chat Alan's given me, some of the chat is that, you know, they'll go and, you know, we all get our blood pressure taken today and stuff like that. It's meant to be private, you know, but then 2 minutes later they're all comparing scores, you know. But it's great because it gets them chatting about it, and it's just something else that gets them going.
Farmers are thrawn. I don't know if that's a word. You know, they're stubborn. You know, I'm not going to the doctor. I don't. You know, sore chest or whatever it be. I'm not going to the doctor. You know, I'm fine. But you know, the RSAB set up in the mart, a place that they know. That, you know, they're coming here to sell their cattle. You know, they don't have time to go to the doctor, and they come in here. Oh, you get a blood? Yeah, I'll get my blood pressure checked. We'll check. You know, him and his buddy comes along, get their blood pressure checked, and just a wee chat with the RSABI guys, and they're doing a great work.
And Irene was saying, you know, they've had people come back again who went, I'm glad I saw you because, you know, I then did have a reason to go and see the doc, and you know, I've changed something, you know, or I'm, you know, it's just amazing.
It's a prompt. It could be a prompt, you know.
But again, it's that community element, and it's the trust. You know, you kind of think about, you know, RSABI is really trusted in Scotland anyway. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it's in the market, which is also a trusted
a known
place, you know, it's a comfortable place for people to come, and it kind of just works. It's been a trial here at Thainstone that's worked really well, and I think from an institute perspective, you know, I'm keen to see what we can do to broaden that out across the rest of the country, if we can.
Auction marts also play an important role, not only to the regional economy, but also on a national scale too. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, last year we sold just short of £665 million worth of livestock, which is about 50% of what they would call the sort of off-farm red meat sales. That's according to QMS's figures. So, you know, it's a huge enabler, particularly for those who aren't necessarily finishing their animals. You know, I would say for sheep, you know, we've got a good share of the prime market in Scotland. But if you're in remote areas, Shetland's a good example, isn't it? You know, actually, we need to enable the islands, the more fragile areas of Scotland, which is quite a lot, where livestock farming is it, really, you know, it is the core of those rural communities' businesses. The market enables those animals to be moved at the right time to the next destination, whether that's for finishing or whatever it might be, at the right time. So from a trade perspective, it's vital, but actually also from an animal welfare perspective, it's really important, because some of these places just will not have the forage stocks to keep these animals through the winter. They have to get them away to traditionally the low ground farming, we would call it, you know, the finishing areas and stuff like that. So, you know, it's crucial linkage through. And if you look at a lot of those island marts, one, you know, very seasonal. Seasonal demand for those markets. So, you know, and actually keeping running that is quite a challenge. You know, Thainstone here every week, 2 or 3 sales a week. It's in a kind of flow, regular. You know, if you look at Shetland, you've got a couple of sales in the spring, and then suddenly in the back end, it's all go.
Every week, a few days a week,
You know, and then it stops again.
That's it,
It's all
seasonal,
done.
Very seasonal.
The job's done, and we move on. But it's critical. You know, it's critical. And, well, did every single one of those sheep come off the island that you sell in Shetland?
90. I would never percentage. It's a very high percentage. You know, the store it's a high number of near 100% of store lambs are coming off the island. There are one or two farms who would finish lambs there, but a high percentage of those lambs are coming off. The only stock that would be kept would be breeding yow lambs, some breeding stock. But basically, the Shetland doesn't have the capacity or the ground or the climate to finish these livestock. They have to move, and that's where the market on Shetland is providing a vital service, and the farmers can see them being sold there on their doorstep.
And that's the same when you go to the Western Isles, down into the Hebrides, even into the very northwest of Scotland. Lairg as an example, as a market. Really important. I'm moving that. And that buyers and sellers. But what did you say? 80,000 sheep out of Shetland? Is that right?
Just short, coming up. Yeah.
The logistical nightmare you must have of organising wagons and boats and.
Yeah, the boat's a big factor, but we have a good relationship with the boat there, but it's a lot of organising. Not that I'm involved with some of that, but not all of it. We've a great team, obviously. It's a big teamwork thing. I stand up and sell, but the team behind, in the office, in the lairage, on the boat. It's everything. There's links all the way through. Yeah.
Again, that's the trusted service to the farmer, that they can come and go, I've done what I can do.
Aye.
You do what you can. They're in the market now. You do what you can do with them, and then it's the service after that for the seller and the buyer to make sure that all goes as smoothly as possible. So it's all that. There's just a huge amount. We've talked about it before. There's a huge amount goes on behind the scenes, isn't there, to make sure that service is given.
Farmers should be urged to come to marts more often, shouldn't they? As at Thainstone, they can take money away on the same day.
And equally, you can decide
not to sell.
That's not the price for me today. Okay, I've brought the animal in. I'm going to take it home. I'll try another day.
In the trade you get in a few weeks back, a month or so back, store cattle, still a good trade today. But it's been a tremendous trade, and a farmer I know sells his calves here, big day, and a serious trade, through the roof. And I spoke to he was in past my farm at home, and the guys had come up to him and said, "What are you getting that for? That's just robbery. You're robbing the guys." And he says, "Well, no, I'm not. I stood up there next to the auctioneer. My cattle came in the ring, and they bid.
Yep.
Now he said, I could have sold those cattle at home. But there is no way I could ask that value for them at home. The guy would have laughed and walked off the farm.
Yep.
But those animals come into the ring, and the people bid, and that is a true value on that animal. But people, might have been a bit of jealousy. The guy said, what are you getting that for? But hey, no, the guy said, they came in the ring and they were bid for.
And it's open and everybody can see it, and you saw today, Chris, a good ringside of buyers there, and there's a good bit of competition. And there's always, it's held, and it's good, it's held. But the buyers know when they come to the market that they're going to have to fight to get what they want.
Yep.
But the reality is they're then going to walk away with what they want and enough of them without having to then go and spend 2 or 3 days dotting round about trying to fill everything up. So it's a numbers game as well. It's about getting that batch. But that just falls into, whoever's running the sale day, right, this is what we've got, this is who we need. And you saw today down in the pens, there's lots and lots of, beautiful cattle in there, that kind of 450 kilo, which is I think in the sweet spot,
right,
probably,
grazing,
what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And then there's the odd Highlander, and there's things, and there's a real mix. But there's somebody here to buy all that stuff, there's somebody here that's that stuff's going to go, And as you said, that's the beauty. And then they sell. Ellis sold today. He can nip down to the office. He's got his cheque. Or the money's going into the bank, and away he goes. There you go. Job done.
It barely touches.
Exactly.
And it's gone somewhere else. Yeah, but I've had
money
it.
was just resting in my account.
I've had it for a short while, but that the auction, you are paid on the day.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty as well. As a farmer, you could go anywhere in Scotland on any day of the week, Monday to Friday, and sell something if you needed to.
Aye.
Now, we don't want farmers to be in that situation, but the reality is that you have the option to do that, and you will get your money.
The industry is facing a lot of challenges at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think let's start with the sort of number one thing that we face in terms of certainly from a day-to-day business perspective, and that is the ongoing reduction in livestock numbers round about the country. We can roll out all sorts of figures. In Scotland at the end of 2022, the national suckler herd had reduced by 6%. I think yesterday DEFRA rolled out figures saying that the national flock across the UK had come down by 5% or maybe 6% again. Cattle numbers had dropped across the UK again. So, we are in a situation just at the moment where the livestock industry is contracting, which means there are, frankly, less hooves in the ground for all of our members to sell. Now, our throughput figures would buck the trend a little bit. We've sold more cattle in the face of that, but there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the trend for us, we will end up just selling less cattle because they just are not there to sell. So farmers can trust us as much as they want. They can send as much to us, but there is a limit to what can be sent. Ellis is on the ground every day, so he will see more of it. But there is, we are in a situation just at the moment where the livestock industry is contracting, which means there are, frankly, less hooves in the ground for all of our members to sell. Now, our throughput figures would buck the trend a little bit. We've sold more cattle in the face of that, but there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the trend for us, we will end up just selling less cattle because they just are not there to sell. So farmers can trust us as much as they want. They can send as much to us, but there is a limit to what can be sent. Ellis is on the ground every day, so he will see more of it. But there's no doubt despite the price has been great, confidence in the sector is fragile, I would say. And a lot of that comes from government, and it's not just about the money. It's not just about saying, "Oh, here's more money." It's actually just about the general support, the positive messages you might get for farmers, for auction markets, for abattoirs, for butchers. Everybody in there. We want to hear. There's a real positive story to tell about Scottish agriculture and Scottish livestock farming. I mean, it's something like 38% of all Scottish agricultural output comes through the red meat sector. I mean, that's really important, and it's even more important in some of these fragile areas. But if people don't have the confidence,
the uncertainties. The government.
It's funny, isn't it? Because the money's still coming in.
Yeah, but
you can't plan. No, because you don't really know what's.
Farming is not a day to day or a month to month. It's a year. It's more than a year. The planning involved of what farmers do with their business.
Your beast that you sold today, when did the bill go out with those beasts' mothers?
21 months ago.
Yes, it's 21 months for the planning.
2 years.
All of that. But it's just for that batch you sold today.
Yeah.
So you need a lead in.
Yeah.
On policy and things like
the uncertainty of where it's going, and farmers are hesitant to make a move in their business because it may be the wrong one. And if it is the wrong one, it could be detrimental if that farmer is still to be there or no.
Yeah.
And so getting clarity moving forward of where the government is wanting Scottish farmers to go and how they're going to support us going forward will help farmers move forward, essentially.
Yeah. No,
It's clarity.
Yeah.
We need clarity.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not necessarily about chucking more money at it or any of that, which I think sometimes is what we get accused of. Our farmers want more money. No, not a bit of support. What we want to know is that you've got our back, basically.
Yeah.
This is an important sector.
I'm going to keep cows. I'm going to keep cows at home, and I don't want them to turn around and say cows are a no-no. Which would be detrimental for all of us here.
Yeah.
But it's the uncertainty that we don't have.
Because for all the reports we've seen, and you look at the climate change committee stuff, which is pushed on and said, we want to move to a more plant-based lifestyle and things like that. The reality is that the general public is sticking with predominantly what their diet has been. I wasn't there, but I think at the NFU conference in Birmingham, Jack Bobo stood up and said, people haven't changed their diets to protect their own health, not changed their lifestyle for their own health purposes. What chance is there that they're going to do it for the environment? But we're actually starting from a point where we already know we're way ahead of the global average in terms of
in Scotland
and environmental impact.
Yeah.
We can probably do more as an industry to lessen that even more. Why would we want to put beef off and then bring it in from export that carbon footprint predominantly? So again, I think there is just I think there's a bit of confusion in the industry, isn't there, about why are we this mixed messaging about we want to support the industry, but do we want cows? And there's all of these kind of mixed messages going on, and that impacts, doesn't it? People start whirls round in people's mind. Trade's probably kept a lot of people in the game. The last 3 months has probably hacked a lot of people off again. So, why am I doing this? Oh, wait, the trade's still pretty good, So, but we kind of need a bit more of a resolution to that, or a direction of travel.
It's very volatile.
And an understanding, Yeah, and again, look, I mean, we point to government. Auction markets aren't supported by government, but our customers are. But we need that confidence through the chain. We've said it. The Scottish Association of Meat Wholesalers, who represent the abattoirs, have said it. The farmers are saying it. We're all saying this. We're saying it to you in the media. We're saying it to officials. We're saying it to politicians. But we're still in no man's land. Really,
it is in no man's land. It's exactly what it is.
And if a farmer's teetering,
it's on the verge of continuing or not. For many farmers, it is the uncertainty of where they go. And as we said, farming is years of planning. And if the uncertainty is there, and maybe there's no succession plan, I'm farming here. What do I do? Well, maybe I'll sell.
I think even when there is a succession plan, when the suckler changes to the Scottish Suckle Beef Support Scheme was announced, so we call it the calf scheme, was announced.
New.
A farmer did phone me. I'd never spoken to him before, but he'd obviously seen a comment that I'd put out. He phoned me about it. Well, what is the story here? I'm in the middle of calving. There's lots of stuff going on, and he's got about 100 cows. Calves 100 cows. Daughter is quite keen. She's at college just now. She's at home helping. She's quite keen to come home. But if she's coming home, there's a big investment they want to make because they want to future-proof the business. Yeah. And he's like, well, how can I make? Because it's a 6-figure investment. I can't make that investment. So I can't make the investment. If I can't make the investment, my daughter's going to maybe go somewhere else. If she goes somewhere else, I'm not going to make the investment. And then what am I doing? Late 50s, still calving cows. I might as well just.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? It's the domino effect of all of that stuff, Chris, that really people, they just can't, there's nothing in there. Even with there's a succession plan there. He's got somebody who wants to come in, but going to have to spend some money
Exactly,
to make that
yeah.
work. Because you don't want to do what your mum and dad did. I might not want to do what my mum and dad did, or they want to make life easier or change it, or, because when you change succession coming in, you've got to give that next generation a chance to do what they want.
Give them opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that just in a nutshell really that's just one example, but I'm sure that's one example that you could replicate across every region of the whole country, the UK, not just Scotland. But it kind of just brought it into focus for me, and this guy's like, it's just another thing about, just another barrier for me with cows, and it was just a kind of, he wasn't angry, it was just a frustration, and he really wants daughter to come in, and she wants to come in, but there's these hurdles that seem to be getting higher all the time, and it's difficult, isn't it?
It's supposed to be improve efficiency and overall. But it's going to... People are going to start swicking.
Well,
I've said that. I know that's not...
You calve cows, right?
Yeah.
You calve cows. How many?
410 days. Oh no, she's 450. No, I'll just put it back.
How many farms survive because they're more efficient?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that any good size farm business now has a good element of efficiency in it.
Oh yeah.
Or it wouldn't be here. Or maybe they're using the good turn of phrase of how you make $1 million in farming. You start with two. But let's be honest, predominantly they're here because there is some form of efficiency in there. Yes, we get government subsidy and all of that. But if they were blowing all that money, they wouldn't be here.
No,
and us putting that cabinet of going to do enough on its own.
Right, I know. It's like my father said about, quality insurance. There's always something else. I think it's important to have. There's always something new comes through every year. And Dad says, it's just, well, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to make an arse of this today. Majority of farmers, I would say near 100% of farmers wake up in the morning. I'm trying here. I'm doing the best that I can do. But the hurdles, as you say, are, they keep coming and bigger and bigger.
People working in agriculture are the most resilient and innovative people, quite possibly in the world. Would you agree?
You think of how many jobs a farmer is to do in a day. You go out in the morning and you be the farmer, and then you realise that the beast's been rubbing its head in the ballcock, and suddenly you're a plumber.
Yeah.
And then the tractor doesn't start, so then you're a mechanic. And then you've got to go in and cook your lunch, so you're the chef. And then you're the finance manager and the HR manager in the afternoon.
Aye, argue with yourself. They are resilient. There's no doubt.
Yeah, you don't get through springs that we've had or ups and downs that we've had in the industry without being resilient. But the resilience comes from the community aspect of farming. There's very few farmers who come in here. Let's say today, how many farms would be selling today? Would there be 100?
Yeah, going on 100
farms selling today. Mm-hmm. Loads of other sectors would think, that's my competitor over there. Sure, I'm not going to speak to them. No, we're all in this together. We've all come together to the auction mart. We're all putting our cattle through the same ring, and we're all going to have a chat with each other. And well done in your pricing, or maybe not well done in your pricing, depending on what side of the fence you're on. But and it's that community aspect that keeps it going. Because they're not fighting with their next door neighbour, or they don't see them as their direct competitor. Maybe when it comes to a farm sale or buying the ring here,
they may want something,
but they have very rarely fought with somebody about it.
The winter that's continuing. I don't know if we call it spring yet, but the challenges the weather have hold. The farmers will come in here. And they know they're not alone. Everyone's facing the same challenges, and that's a great thing about the community spirit of of the markets and the resilience of the farmer. They're not alone in getting that message.
And they're passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps us all going, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ellis, it's that will, passionate about what you do. It's the will to keep going in that community, and all of that banded together is a real support mechanism for the broader industry. There will always be casualties. There's always been casualties in business, and it stops for a whole myriad of reasons, not necessarily financial, just all different things happen. So we'll always have casualties, we always have done. But there's a bloody good core to this industry, and Scotland should be proud of its farming industry, really should be. And government should be proud of the farming industry that's here. And I'm not sure we see that terribly much at the moment.
There's no many industries or no any that come together like farmers do.
Yeah.
As you said, we're roughly 100 sellers here today that are coming together, gathering like they are, and it functions, shows. It's unique, really, the farm.
Yeah, it is. But it's that community spirit, really. It's the fact that you'll see the neighbour and have a blether with them, or they come to the market, and you suddenly realise, oh God, it's not just me.
Yeah, I'm not alone.
I'm not useless at this. Actually, everybody's feeling the pain of this just now. So and I would say that these guys, Ellis, the auctioneers, they're resilient as well. They're part of that sort of, because it's great just now, but it's not always great. Trade can be difficult.
Yeah,
trade will be difficult again in the future.
Yeah, I will say I've been auctioneering now for 7 years in relatively good trade. The last couple of years have been exceptional, and for an auctioneer, I'm not saying it's easy, but it can be very enjoyable, and price is good, sellers happy, buyers accept it, everything's working well. But as Neil said, trade can turn its head. The sheep market just now is at a volatile level. It could turn. I don't think it will, but it can change quick, and that can make our job tougher. But that is the resilience. I think an auctioneer has to sell good and bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and be straight down the middle about it all.
Yeah.
Alan said earlier, if you think the trade's not going to be great, then you've got to be honest with the seller, and they'll listen. Could be hard work, but
we'll do our best.
Yeah, it's but it's a great industry to work in.
Could I end the interview by asking why working in agriculture means so much to you, and why it is that you're passionate to work in this fantastic industry of ours?
Passionate or mad, I'm not quite sure. Look, I maybe followed a bit of a different career path to Ellis, but probably a bit of similar background. So grew up in farming. wasn't on a farm. My grandfather had a farm. So I grew up in farming. Studied agriculture university. I went into banking, but I still worked in farming. Had a farm at home by this point in time, so it's connected. It's kind of this idea that it's in the blood. Mm-hmm. And however often I tried to extract myself from it and go and do something else, I always ended up back. I always ended up back, because you went away and you worked in other industries and sectors, and you suddenly realised that all that stuff we talked about, the community spirit, the farmers coming together, the fun, the challenge, the tough times, the good times, all of that, other industries just fail off the back of that. Other businesses just pack up and go home. I don't want to do this anymore. But this industry doesn't, and a lot of these businesses don't. They just tough it out. And I suspect for me it's because it's in the blood, And I'm not an auctioneer. I run the institute. My father's a retired auctioneer, so I've always had a connection. I was saying earlier to somebody that you know, when I was high before the computers and stuff came in, they used to run the lines.
Yeah.
And then it was a bit bigger, so I could then drove the sheep. But I never had I loved the market. I loved going to the market. It was great fun. I never really had an instinct to be an auctioneer. It wasn't really something I wanted to do, but I love it. I love the markets. All of that stuff we've talked about before. And when I got the opportunity to come in and come back in and work for the Institute, I thought, well, yeah, look, it's kind of up my... Not an auctioneer. I'm never going to be an auctioneer.
You're at the front. You're at the...
The whole thing's kind of up my street, you know, it's part of the industry. So, yeah, so that's my connection to it. And that's why I fight so hard for it. That's why I put the time and effort in to support Ellis and his colleagues and the companies that are members of the Institute. But that's also supporting the farmers on the ground and trying to, as best we can, represent their interests to get the best outcome that we possibly can for them.
For me, I guess, like Neil said, it's in the blood, it's passion. But I actually had no vision of being an auctioneer. Grew up on a farm, third generation farmer. I'm very much a stock person, love livestock, cattle, sheep, just real passion. And I like speaking to people, I like socialising, I like conversation. And I think I have a good way with people. I think as I've become an auctioneer, I think being part of an auctioneer is adapting yourself. No putting on a mask or that, but you know, you could go in and about to a farm and the farmer could be having a hellish day. And it's adapting yourself to notice this.
It's been able to communicate in different ways with different people.
You know, how to react to that. You know, not going on about there and being hellish cocky and coming away from there and that boy said, oh, I'm not, you know,
deal with him.
God, you know. So I love stock, love people, love speaking to people. And so actually being brought up on the farming background, the opportunity came about in the market here at Aberdeen Northern Marts was for a livestock fieldsman. So when I seen it, that was real up my street. Canvassing for livestock and speaking to people about the livestock. So at that time it was no about auctioneering, but during my interview I was asked if I would like to be an auctioneer, and at that time it was something I hadn't thought about, and I said no, well, we're here for the job, it's advertised, we'll go from there and we'll see how it goes. And thankfully and luckily ANM, the guys here at ANM, gave me the opportunity to give the auctioneer a go, and it just built from there. And I think it's in you if it is, and thankfully so no passion of being an auctioneer, but it's come and it's great. I'm thankful for it, but very much just the love for livestock and the love for, you know, I'm quite a social person, speak to people, and and although I never wanted to be an auctioneer, and I am one now, I always loved the mart, the buzz of the mart. You know, I think as a young boy, you look up at an auctioneer, and you think, you know, he's, you know, an auctioneer's to be looked up at. When I was young, you know, you come to a mart and there's a buzz and the cattle, or even a farm sale, and you know, there's so many different aspects, and it was the buzz of that. And I always loved a mart or an auction from a young age, and now here I'm an auctioneer. So it's.
And I think it's funny just that you're talking about the journey there, because actually we've got, so Ellis was not last year but year before, you were the top student when graduated as an FIA, and then just this year past, you know, with Jenna Bannatyne, she was top student from Loring Simonton at Lanark, but Jenna's not a stand in the box auctioneer, but wants to be involved in the mart. I've got lots of people like that. They've done their professional qualifications, but don't necessarily want to be that front of house in the rostrum, being the seller, but will do a lot. Basically, they're in that big team that services that. They've got the skills, they've got the knowledge, they've had their education, they're qualified, they're a critical part of that whole business that services the farmer.
Yeah, as you said before, Alan mentioned earlier, the auction, the auctioneer, 25% of the job, and that is the good thing about the course at Harper Adams. You know, a lot of people call it the auctioneer course, but actually there's no aspect of auctioneering at the course. It is very much a livestock market based, or market based, but then laws, regulations, running a market, you know, so it can be based at auctioneers, but also based at, you know, potential market managers, office managers,
Yep.
you know, like Sir Jenna there, who is a big cog, I'm sure, at Lanark Market. So she's got an opportunity to take on this, on the course, come out top student, and that'll put her instead, you know, in the future. And that is a great thing the Institute offers.
So, you know, that's kind of broadly there, is, you know, there's opportunities for everybody here. You know, we talk about auctioneers, but actually there's so many roles in the auction market that need filled, and a lot of opportunities, whether you want to be in the administrative side, or whether you want to be selling, or whether you want to be working with livestock out in the penning area and stuff like that. You know, and that's what you were saying. You know, some people have just got a passion with working with livestock, but might not have the opportunity on the farm or whatever, and coming and work in the market gives them that opportunity 2 or 3 times a week to get right in, you know, be part of that, and the buzz and the excitement of it and stuff like that. And, you know.
Thanks to both Ellis and Neil for their time in recording this week's pod. Join us next week, as we'll be joined for another episode of the Farmers Guardian podcast. So in the meantime, have a fantastic week, and goodbye.